Hey beginners, I just want to go over with you a little bit of the violin and viola setup for how to hold your instrument and get it set up for you for proper pizzicato and making sure that everything is set up for you to make a good sound. So the very first thing is your shoulder rest, and all of them look a little bit different. But when you have your shoulder rest on, most of you have the brand called Kuhn, and the K of the brand, which is labeled right underneath the K, will be positioned right underneath your chin rest. So take a look at when you have it on there that the K is in the right spot. And then when you put it on your shoulder, there's a dip that curves down that should go nicely onto this portion of your chest. Okay. When you have your shoulder rest on, when you're looking straight ahead, straight at the music, it should be right at about the jaw level where you're making contact with the chin rest. You don't ever want to put your whole chin on the chin rest. As silly as it sounds, they should have just named this the jaw rest because that's all that's really touching. Your instrument's off to the side, okay? But your head will always be straight because your music will always be right in front of you. So you never want to be looking straight down at the fingers or at the fingerboard or at the scroll of your instrument. You always have to look at your music ahead. So double check that your shoulder rest is set up properly so that you can hold it correctly. That's always the first solid step, and making sure that it's at the right height. So if you see that when you put it on, there's this huge gap between your chin rest and your chin. The feet on all of your shoulder rests, no matter what brand you have, all of your shoulder rests are adjustable. So if you just remove the shoulder rest, slide it downwards, never just yank it off, but slide it downwards and just tighten or loosen the screws on either or both sides until you feel like it's a comfortable height so that it's touching just gently at the corner on your jaw. Okay, so once you've got all of that set up, the scroll, let me try and move over here so you can see a little bit better. So the scroll is about at the same level as your nose. It's not up high and it's not drooping and pointing downwards. This is super critical for when you add the bow, because when we add the bow onto the string, if we have it about the same level of as our nose, it's kind of like a table. So the bow just sits on top and it doesn't slide around. When it goes downwards, and a lot of people do this just because they get tired, it starts pointing down to the ground. The bow will start sliding downwards on the string and it's a lot harder to play. So keep that instrument up nice and high. Now, for your hand, where your hand is going to go, all of you will be having finger tapes. So if you look at your finger tape, there's the first finger tape. That's the one that's closest to, this is the nut of the fingerboard. So the one that is closest to that spot, or the one that's furthest away from your face. So you're going to have your first finger there, and your thumb is going to go on the side right next to where that first finger is going to be. Now, I don't have finger tapes on here, but you can see that my first finger is in the exact same line as my thumb, okay? Now, the thumb, only the tiniest tip of your thumb can point above the fingerboard. You never want a big thumb sticking out, and you don't want it hiding underneath on the back side of the neck. You always want it on the side, and this helps with flexibility and being able to reach all of the different fingers that you need to. If it starts moving around or it's in different locations, you're going to have a really hard time with getting your notes in tune and getting your notes in the correct place as quickly as it needs to be. So make sure it lines up with that first finger onto that first finger tape if you have your tapes. And the pad of your finger, you can see it's pretty square on there. Okay, so that big, meaty, fat part of the thumb centered onto the side of the neck. Okay, so you got your thumb set up, you got your fingers ready to go, you got it placed in the right spot, your scroll is at the level of your nose. Now the very last step is checking your wrist. Do you see how my wrist and elbow, all of this goes in one straight line? This is what you need to have on your instrument setup as well. So many students revert to this. They use their wrist to kind of help support this, but this is actually making it 10 times harder for you. So keep this wrist nice and straight, but don't overdo it. This is going to be equally as uncomfortable as this and just as hard to play. If you keep it nice and straight and nice and relaxed, it'll be very easy to get all of your notes in tune and in the right spot and on the right tapes. Everything's just going to fall into place if you have this set up. As soon as things start changing, your world gets much harder. Everything gets harder to get in the right spot. Intonation is a problem. When we add the bow, it just kind of is a spiral downwards. So make sure that this is nice and straight and set up. So it may not feel very natural, but if you remove some of these elements, it's completely natural of how you're holding it. Your shoulders should be nice and relaxed. You're not hunched up, okay? So you're just relaxed, okay? Your head is facing forward. So literally, I've changed nothing. Everything is staying nice and straight, just like a normal everyday, just sitting in a chair. Then the rest of your hand, if you were just to kind of just relax, even just have your hand upside down like this is the same posture that you have if you were to flip it upwards. The wrist is in alignment with the rest of your hand. When your hand dangles, it's never going to go like this. And that's what people do when they do this. This is what we call the pizza wrist or the platter hand. Okay, it's like you're carrying a platter or you have a pizza on your tray here. Okay, so everything is supposed to be a very natural movement. Okay, even the hand shape is the same when you have it on your instrument. It doesn't ever change. So all of these, they may feel very awkward at first and it takes some getting used to, but everything is supposed to be very natural. So whenever you're going like this, just kind of shake out that hand and just think, okay, where would it go if I just flop my hand upside down and then just pull that in that same direction, just in the other way. Okay, so that is the basic setup. Once you've got that down, you are off to a fantastic start to be the next greatest violinist and violist out there. So make sure you got this good setup and posture, and then everything else will come easy peasy. Hope that helped.